while he was at, was it Yale? Or I think it was Yale or Harvard. Which was it? One of those Ivy League schools. Couldn't even read what he wrote. They sealed his documents so you couldn't read it. If you did read his books, The Audacity of Hope, and then there's another one, and quoted him, then you were a bigot, even though it was his words. And it was like, outside of the core conservative independents in this country, it was like you were just a bigot for questioning this guy. And you see that and how he took the presidency, the most powerful position in the world, without a lot of people being satisfied that he's even a natural-born citizen, and with no one knowing anything about him and not allowed to even read up on him. That is just evidence to me that this world is ripe and ready for the Antichrist. It comes, once you start to study the situation around the world, it comes to light that the whole world is not, they're all looking for this Antichrist. They're hoping for him. They want him to arrive. Now, they wouldn't call him Antichrist, but they are all looking for one man to come on the stage. And I couldn't even put all the stuff I found. If you add up the people who are into the New Age movement, into Hinduism and Buddhism and the other occult religions, they are all actively joining together, invoking the Spirit of the Christ and praying for this reincarnation, they believe, of the Christ to appear and to bring world peace.
Oh dear.
And if you watch for it, you're going to see bumper stickers. I've seen them where they, that one I read said, chant for peace. Another one said, meditate for peace. And all these, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about, they believe that if enough of us in the world would join together and just chant and meditate on peace, that this Spirit of the Christ would then appear in the form of a man and bring peace. So when the Antichrist does appear, that's what they're going to believe they've got. And this is going on in all those different religions. They believe that it's a reincarnation of the Christ Spirit, but they believe that Confucius and Buddha and Jesus and Muhammad, they were all reincarnations of this same Spirit of the Christ. And that we are now looking for the final Christ who will bring in world peace. We watched this past week a show on the History Channel called The Nostradamus Effect. I don't recommend it. And this is on the History Channel, and they're teaching that Nostradamus predicted 3 antichrists. The first was Napoleon, the second was Hitler, and now they're watching and waiting for the third. All the followers of Nostradamus and folks into this occultism and everything else. Reverend Sun Myung Moon. You ever heard of the Moonies? But he claims to be Jesus. And that his plan is that if everybody just follow him, then he'll fix you up with the right person, and he'll intermix all the races that way, and then eventually we'll all become one race and there'll be peace. That's the Mooney plan for salvation. And Moon says he's the Christ. And then you had David Koresh. Koresh claimed to be God, and he claimed to be Jesus and all that. And there's how many of you heard this Benjamin Crane, who is claiming that the Christ is named, he calls him Lord Matriarch. You heard of that? Well, there are hundreds of millions of people who have joined this movement, believing, it's from all those people I referred to earlier that are chanting for peace and everything. Well, hundreds of millions have actually signed on, literally, to this movement calling forth the Lord Matriarch. He has been taking out full-page ads for years in the New York Times, the USA Today, announcing the presence of this Lord Matriarch who's about to appear and bring world peace. That Messages from Heaven is a movie about Mary worship. But, Deb, you've seen it. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. But this shows that not only within Roman Catholicism, but within the Orthodox, within the Protestant churches, within Islam, and within the New Age, all those groups I've just mentioned, they all are taking part in Mary worship. And they are looking for apparitions. And I believe, from what I'm reading, that they are prepared that if Satan can bring about a false apparition, which all of them are false, and this Mary woman that isn't the true Mary, but this Mary apparition tells these people that this is my son, pointing to the Antichrist. They'll follow her. They'll follow her advice. They'll start to worship this Antichrist. So all over the world, you take the true Christians and rapture them out of here, and you pretty much got it sized up. Speaking of Mary, that if she refers to, say, a pope as the Christ, that won't be anything new. How many of you are aware that the Pope claims to be Jesus? Mm-hmm. The Pope already claims to be Jesus, and it is official Roman Catholic doctrine that he is God on earth. And so when this apparition of Mary and this New Age thing, they all point to a Pope and say he's the Antichrist, or he's the Christ, that's not far-fetched. It's already laid in Roman Catholic dogma.
Jesus said, "And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven." Yet the popes took to themselves the name Holy Father, along with all claims of authority that might be assumed by such a title. Pope Innocent III, who fathered the Inquisition, said, "The Pope holdeth place on earth, not simply of a man, but of the true God." Meanwhile, Pope Nicholas said of himself, "I am in all and above all, so that God himself and I, the Vicar of God, hath both one consistory, and I am able to do almost all that God can do. I then, being above all, seem by this reason to be above all gods." Yet despite these biblical warnings, the popes repeatedly claimed they were equal to and above God, and were even called by Catholics our Lord God, the Pope. The Lateran Council, while addressing Pope Julius II, said to him, "Take care that we lose not that salvation, that life and breath which thou hast given us. For thou art shepherd, thou art physician, thou art governor, thou art husbandman, thou finally art another God on earth." In the 19th century, Cardinal Giuseppe Sarto, who would later become Pope Pius X, declared, "The Pope is not simply the representative of Jesus Christ. On the contrary, he is Jesus Christ himself, under the veil of the flesh. Does the Pope speak? It is Jesus Christ who is speaking. Hence, when anyone speaks of the Pope, it is not necessary to examine, but to obey." Jesus said of himself, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me." Yet Pope Pius IX blasphemously declared, "I alone am the successor of the apostles, the vicar of Jesus Christ. I am the way, the truth, and the life." The popes have not only made claims to be God, but have insisted that salvation itself depends directly upon obedience to them. Pope Boniface VIII said, "We declare, say, define, and pronounce that it is absolutely necessary for the salvation of every human creature to be subject to the Roman Pontiff." Pope Clement VI said, "No man, outside obedience to the Pope of Rome, can ultimately be saved. All who have raised themselves against the faith of the Roman Church and died in final impenitence have been damned and gone down to hell."